Welcome to chapter 11. Today we're going to be talking about the second P of marketing, which is pricing, and in our case is global pricing. And this is also an important topic for us to take a look at because it's one of the most difficult things as a global marketer to overcome. Now, you can standardize the product, you can standardize the promotion, you can standardize the distribution, but pricing is very complicated when it comes to global marketing. So we're going to be taking a look at that and look at the complicated issues that arise from pricing a product or a service that is going to be offered in another country. Some of these issues include currency changes, devaluations, the currency exchange. When you have one currency have more power than another one, and when it goes the opposite direction, losing your profit due to that. Tariffs, right? Things that we talked about before, like tariffs and non-tariffs, but in this case we're going to focus on tariffs, obviously, which are taxes included in the product. Once they cross the border, you have that tax on top of it. And other issues like shipping and transportation costs, additional profit, and things like that make it a lot more complicated for us to take a look at changing the price. So we're going to start with two topics today. The first one is going to be how we basically price products and their implications in global marketing. And then we're going to talk about specifically transfer pricing, and that's when you transfer products and parts from one subsidiary to another one within the same company. So let's start with the first one, which is the way you price basically. And in the domestic market as well as in global markets, it's we have the basic principles, which are number one, cost plus pricing. And a lot of companies do that here in the US. And what that means is that you take a look at the cost for your product and then you add an additional percentage to that cost plus. Very basic, easiest way to do it, right? Especially for younger companies that are not very familiar with their markets. And that's what really happens when we go to other countries. So for a global marketer, you try not to use that as much because you want to know your markets as much as possible. So you usually add that percentage when you're not very sure if people are going to like your product or you don't know very much about your target. So that's cost plus. The second one is experience curve pricing. And that is due to the fact that when we manufacture products, the more our labor learns how to do them in a more efficient way, the lower the costs you have. And so the more products you can create at a faster pace, and the more you lower your production costs. So learn by doing. That's what it really means, is that the more we learn how to create that product, the lower our costs are. Therefore, we can transfer those lower prices to our customers. And usually when we have countries that are underdeveloped and they go into more mature markets, that's usually what kind of pricing they use is experience curve pricing. So that's two. The third one is perceived value pricing. And what that means is that products are priced on a basic scale, just like if you price a normal product, and then in addition you add a premium for it, which is you add it to the commodity. You add an additional premium, and that's because you have a specific benefit or a specific brand where you can add that additional price. So this type of pricing is also used around the world, whether you're domestic pricing or pricing in other countries. You can also use that. The last one is called demand pricing, and a lot of companies do this because they know what customers are willing to pay for a product, and then they work themselves backwards, and then they decide what materials to use, what kind of design to use based on what people are willing to pay for something. Usually, cell phone manufacturers will use this strategy based on what they think people will pay, and so they work themselves backwards and create all of these different products for people to enjoy. All of these manufacturers might use this with the exception of Apple, which is a little bit different, and they usually use skimming pricing. So those are the basic principles of pricing and how they're used in a global context. The second related topic to this is called transfer pricing. Why do we care about transfer pricing? That is because companies usually have subsidiaries in different places. You'll be surprised to know that when you transfer a product from one country to the other one, let's say from the US to the UK, doesn't matter if it's the same parent company, you have to sell the product to the other company. And so that has to be written on the books that you've shipped a product from here to the UK. So you have to take into consideration shipping costs, insurance costs, tariffs, and other profit that the other company wants to have, or distributors want to have in addition to your price. So as you can see in the exhibit, the price for a product created here in the US is $100. If you look at the process that is taking place and all of the additional charges that you see, the final transfer price ends up being $281 to the consumer, and that's because we've added all those extra steps. And so it doesn't matter whether it's different companies or within a company, you have to pay the price to receive those products or parts. Sometimes companies just ship parts amongst themselves, and they still have to pay for that. Now, there's this rule called arm's length rule. And what that means is that when you're pricing your product, it has to be according to the market price. So if I am in the US and I have my manufacturing plant here, and I am transferring another product to my UK subsidiary, I have to price my product to them to reflect what it will cost them to get the same product in their market. So I cannot lower the price too much, because then that will show that I am trying to move profits from one country to the other. And a lot of companies actually are blamed for these types of practices in which they are avoiding the payment of taxes in one country, so they shift all of their profits to another subsidiary so that they have a lower tax bracket there.